quite a bit of testimony in the audit committee that there has been some good done with this initiative. We do have some world-class research centers now at Utah State and the University of Utah. The actual purpose of the legislation seemed that we've gotten distracted from that. Research is an important element at our universities and also our economy here in Utah. But they have been able to recruit some very prestigious researchers here. We now just need to, I believe, get behind either address the research issue here. We're going to have an initiative that will incentivize spin-offs and economic development, that we need to get back to that basic
absolutely
element.
And President, I think that there will be a push, I think, in the next legislative session by some legislators to try to just end U-Star, cast away, and I think others try to dramatically reform it and try to, as a sound practice, it just doesn't come into fruition. And so that's going to be, I think, for an interesting debate to watch over the next 4 months. Is U-Star dead in the water, or is it going to resurrect something different and something under new management that will go in a slightly different direction?
So I think you can expect, as taxpayers and as citizens, the legislature is going to address this in a substantive way. It's important that we have the transparency and accountability, and our auditors, the legislative auditors, are an important part of that process.
Absolutely. And, this is only my session that I've had, but I've been so impressed with the staff that we have supporting us, legislative auditors, the attorneys, the consummate professional, I say that right, but very professional people that give us extra so that we can better policy decisions. I think one of the reasons why we're the managed state so well in the national ranking is because we have such good support. So,
an important. I'm auditor by trade, CPA. Didn't much in auditing, but have had training there. Abilities in our ability where have an independent entity go and verify being done or not being done.
Absolutely.
So there's been another authorized fund-to-funds center. I think you can be familiar with it a little bit. A couple of over the years. Economic type of initiative fund-to-funds. We pledge tax credits, and tax credits are something that could be marketed in. It's not necessarily at the stock exchange, a commodity. And we've done is $100 million of tax credits that were borrowed against, so that we could incentivize venture capitalists to come to you. Also been getting information has been very helpful, but of late we're finding it might be short of money. So we've short of money, and we might end up, it might end up costing the taxpayer $13 million at the end. And yes, probably created some jobs. Has that worth the investment? Or looking at that?
Water, I think he stepped in and took it because I think a lot of people felt like I'd gotten off Tim. I toured his offices. I've listened to his presentations and a lot of confidence. To see what that is a program that some criticism. People believe that the state government playing it.
And we'll find out here in the next few months. That is a good initiative. Again, I want to emphasize that it's important that processes we have. Our fiscal analyst office is a great resource holding these entities we create. with us. Utah Legislative Update. Our next segment will talk a little bit about Medicaid expansion. Been on a look at this. Get his about Medicaid expansion. So stay with it.
We'll be right back. How long is it?
2 minutes.
Medicaid. Okay. There's a story about Kurt Bramble's Can't Vote bill. Wow.
We're back with the legislative update. This is Senator Sen I Niederhauser, President of Utah Senate. With me again is Senator Todd Weiler. Thanks for coming down here on a rainy morning and
talking with me. That never leaves. So.
It's been great to have you. I just want listeners to know that Senator Weiler has only been in the legislature a short time, but yet is carrying the water on some very big issues. Last year, carried a lot of weight on a lot of Senate issues and is very capable and very articulate in committee and on the floor on not only bills that he's carrying, but also in questioning issues that come up on other bills. So we appreciate you being part of the Senate, Senator.
When you said carrying a lot of weight, I thought you were referring to all those free meals I've been getting since I've been in the legislature.
Well, that's that's something that we probably won't talk about here in this segment, but we do get plenty to eat. Medicaid expansion. You've been part of the governor's task force committee that they asked me to appoint some people to. I thought since your background on health human services, you'd be a great representative from the Senate to be over there working with the governor's office on the question of Medicaid expansion. Should we expand Medicaid or should we not?
Yeah, and thank you for appointing me. I found out in April that I appointed to that committee, and I actually met probably between 15 and 20 times over the summer with our subgroup. We had some meetings that were the whole group, but we divided almost immediately into 5 subgroups, and I asked to be on a subgroup that would look at type of a block grant type of solution where we could tell the federal government, give us the money that you would spend on Medicaid expansion and let us spend it in a Utah way, and if let us take some risks, and if those risks pay off, we'll reap the benefit. If those risks turn sour, then we'll take that chance as well. And because I felt like looking at all of the options, that the only politically possibility for the legislature to sign off on this because we do have a mechanism in place now, partially thanks to a bill that I rewrote last session. That if the governor,
I remember that rewrite.
Yeah,
good.
If the governor does decide to expand Medicaid, the legislature, in effect, gets a veto on that. We could say no, you don't. And so I don't see the governor or the Republican legislature, Republican-dominated legislature, just rolling over and saying, sure, Obamacare is great. We're gonna jump in with both. I don't see that happening, but I do see maybe saying we found a Utah way to do this, and we're going to do this better than the federal government's doing it. If we're going to be taxed for this extra money the other states are getting, we might as well get some of that and help improve lives. But we're not going to do it the way that Kathleen Sebelius and Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama envisioned it. So that possibility, I think, may still be on the table.
So in a discussion I had with Representative Bishop not long ago, and I mentioned that this here on the legislative update program, I've been working with him on a lot of federalism issues, and in a discussion that I had with him in D.C. last year, he said he'd had a discussion with one of the justices, our Supreme Court justices, Scalia it was, and bemoaning the non-support of the Supreme Court federalism.
Yeah.
And he said that the judge just came right back at him and said the states have to stop accepting the money. If they weren't accepting the money, the federal government wouldn't have control over them.
That's very true. And it's true in education, Common Core, the top funds. It's true in a lot of areas.
So that's a Supreme Court justice telling us that. But it's compelling to take the money because where does the money come from?
It comes from us.
Citizens.
Yeah, it comes from us.
And we want to get our fair share, right? We're
Yeah.
out in the playground with the other 50 states, and a lot of those states have already expanded Medicaid. They're getting the free money from Washington.
It's raining down from the heavens.
Although every additional dollar that comes out of Washington is borrowed
from China,
and or printed by the Federal Reserve. So, is there any level of expansion, or there was some discussion? You mentioned that maybe there is a negotiation that we could go in, or that we could a negotiation could take place with Sebelius and the U.S. Health and Human Services to get us a modification.
Yeah, and a lot of what my subgroup considered would require an act of Congress, which I think right now we can't get Congress to agree on the color of the sky. So there is
not going to happen.
But so let me just lay the groundwork for some of our viewers. So when you talk about Medicaid, what we're talking about is federal poverty level. So Congress sets this federal poverty level. So depending on the size of your family, if you're a single male or if you're married with 16 children, for each of those categories and everything in between, they have an amount that would put you at the federal poverty level. So if you're a family of 4 living in Utah, it's around, I think, $20,000. I'm just making that number up, but maybe 24, maybe 28. And so right now, if underneath 100% of the poverty level, you'll qualify for all kinds of stuff like food stamps, reduced or free meals at school for your kids, and Medicaid. If you're married with kids, there's all kinds of gaps in that. So if you're married with kids and you're 100% federal poverty level, or if you're single, you may not qualify for Medicaid right now. So
that's an expansion population we've been talking about.
So part of Obamacare and the Medicaid expansion is to fill in those gaps up to 100% of the federal poverty level. But then the second group, and that is moving it from 100% of the FPL all the way up to 130%. So you're bringing in a vast tens of thousands of new people in Utah that have never been cut under Medicaid before. There's another issue here. So right now, or as of last year or the year before, there are tens of thousands of people in Utah who qualified for Medicaid under the old standards, weren't receiving leaving it for various reasons.
Right.
But because of all the publicity and because of the IRS involvement, those people sign up. Okay, they're not Medicaid expansion. They're not the 100% free for the first year and then 90% paid by the federal government after that. They're on the normal 70-30. So every time someone qualifies for this federal program, Utah's on the hook for 30%. So we're kind of waiting to see how many people that are under the old Medicaid program are going to come out of the woodwork or the woodshed and sign up. And I think it's been wise for the governor to slow down and see how much that's going to cost us before we start adding more people to the goal, if you will.
And there's real challenges with our general fund. We fund transportation out of that. We fund higher ed to some degree. It is the main funding source for government here in Utah. And Medicaid continues to consume a larger portion of that, far beyond the growth of any other program that we have.
And that is true during the recession. We've seen that drop off dramatically in the last 2 years. There was a point, I think when I joined the legislature almost 2 years ago, we were upside down about $60 million of federal government. So people qualified for Medicaid. We had a 30% reimbursement. Hadn't made that. We had made that. The 2 years ago, I think we've actually taken money out of what we had originally appropriated for Medicaid because the need has gone down as the economy, as we've come slowly out of this recession.
But over time, and yeah, we have the ups and downs, but over time this continues to consume a greater percentage of that budget that if we weren't careful addressing going forward, could, by projections, consume all general fund in 20 years.
Yeah, and so about 10 years ago, Medicaid reimbursement was about 10% of the state budget. It grew to 17%, I think, by 2011 or so. But it has been receding back down.
When the economy's good.
Yeah. The other thing we did was we had a study back that the governor's office had commissioned. It came back publicly in May or June, and it basically said that if we expand Medicaid, there would be some very positive benefits to the Utah economy. And that's really to be expected because we have less people going to the emergency room without any insurance that we're all paying for. And whenever you pump into an economy, it is going to have some multiplier effect. And so especially the first 3 years of Medicaid expansion, all paid for 100% theoretically by the federal government. There are administrative costs that we would have to pick up. So these are interesting issues. And right now, it's solely the governor's call. And once the governor makes a call, if it's in favor of some type of expansion, the legislature will engage on that issue.
And we have the money, or we have we appropriate the money, and so there'll be some discussion about that. And I hope the governor will include legislature, and is trying to, but at least at point to include us in that discussion. We had Representative Dunnigan on the program last week. He highlighted this 100%. He said maybe we would expand up to 100% because those between 100% and 138% go to the exchange, some tax credits and that type of thing. And so I think that's kind of the discussion that we'll have going forward.
Absolutely,
yeah. We're coming to the end of our program today, and hopefully if you have questions about what we've discussed, hold on to those questions and let us know next week. We'd love to be able to address those issues. Actually, it's Thanksgiving next week, so maybe we won't be in our program.
I'll be in Turkey.
You'll be in Turkey.
Eating turkey.
You'll be eating turkey. But we thank you for being with us today. We've had some great discussions. There'll be more to come as we get closer to legislative session. So tune in next time for the Utah Legislative Update for substantive discussion on issues facing our state. Thank you, Senator Weiler, for being with us today. We've talked about some great issues. We appreciate KHQN 1480 Radio and their sponsorship of Utah Legislative Update.
And who knew that all those hours of cheerleading would